right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to today's session. Today, we'll be talking about mapping user flows. Okay, so a brief recap: we have empathized with our users, we have refined our research data, we have ideated, we have come up with solutions that may or may not solve this user problem that we are targeting. So now we want to, how do we get the solution that we have ideated? How do we bring it and create a design out of it? Or how do we start with the design of our application or with the UI of our application? So that's where we introduce ourselves, or we get accustomed to the concept of user flows. Like, what do we do? What are user flows? How do we organize our design ideas? How does it how does an idea turn from just words and imaginations and sketches on your paper to an actual design on your Figma file, or on your Figma file, rather? So that's what we'll be talking about today. Mapping user flows. How do we map user flows? How important is it in the design process? What do we use it for? When should we be mapping user flows? What tool? What colors? How is it done generally? How do we create user flows? What does it even mean? Because it can be easy to confuse the terminologies. We've talked about user journeys, user stories, it's a lot of terminologies, and now we're talking about user flows. So what's the difference between user flow um from a user journey? What's the difference between this and a user story? That's what we're going to be talking about today. Yeah. So what are user flows? Another terminology we can another word for user flows are called is flow charts. So if you don't want to call them user flows, sometimes you see it as flow charts. So you do not confuse yourself or think they are different things. It's the same thing. Either called a flow chart, a user flow, or it can even be called a UX flow. So they are basically diagrams that display the complete path a user takes when using a product. So there are diagrams that display the path a user takes when using a product. I open an application. I want to buy something. I click on this. I click on this. I fill in my details. I buy it. I get the confirmation. That path I'm taking. That's that the route I'm taking to do something on an application or to use the solution that you're offering to me now is called the user flow. So there are many different paths a user can take when interacting with a product. Creating a user flow means sketching out a diagram that helps you order your web or app screens in a way that best fits the user needs. Here you will determine what pages needs to be designed and in what order they will be arranged. So like I said before, our last session we talked about ideation, solutions, brainstorming, and coming up with different ideas, different solutions to solve a problem. So now we have the solution at hand. So what we're talking about now, what we're trying to do at this point now is to think of how best to present this solution to our users. We're going to put ourselves in their shoes and see and think about how they're going to use this solution. What is the path the user is going to take when using my product? So this is a typical example of a UX flow or a user flow. By the time we end this session, we should be more familiar with everything on the screen right now. So now a user flow, like I've said before, is simply a product's layout. It's layout of a product, it's layout of your solution, a layout of your idea. So usually it begins with an entry point into the product, which can be the home page, the onboarding screen. It could also be the company's website. Because sometimes for you to download an application, the first place you see the application is on a company's website. It might not be on Play Store. So user flow has there are three different parts to user flow, and we're going to get there. But the first part is usually the entry point. How does the user come in contact with your product? So now, if you remember from our user journey, you'll be finding some similarity between user flows and user journey maps, but they are different. And we'll come into their differences later. So now, a flow chart would begin with a customer's entry point, and it would end with the final action or outcome, like purchasing a product or signing up for an account. So depicting this process allows designers to evaluate and optimize user experience and therefore increase the client conversion rate. It lays out users' movements through the product, mapping out each and every step the user takes from entry point right through to the final interaction. Why do we use user flows? What's the importance? What's the importance of user flows? One is to create an intuitive interface. Intuitive means something that someone can use without thinking too much, without thinking too hard. It's just easy, seamless for the person to use your application. But a solution that might seem obvious to you might not seem as obvious to the next person or to the person you're creating it for. So we use user flows to ensure that the solution or the design direction our design is taking, the route our product is following, or the route a user has to follow to complete a task on our product is intuitive. It's something that's seamless that every person can understand. So user flows enables you to design a product where users can get in the zone quickly, enhancing ease of movement through your platform. It also allows you to evaluate existing interfaces. So you ask yourself questions like, does one screen flow into the next? Does the pattern of the screens make sense? User flow charts help determine what's working and what's not, and what areas need improvement. So now we are seeing two different aspects of user flows. One, to create an intuitive interface. This is at the beginning of your design process when you're just starting to create the interface. So you can apply user flows here to help to ensure that whatever interface you're creating or whatever interface you're designing is intuitive. It's something that a user can easily understand when they start using it. User flows also enables us to evaluate existing interfaces. So in a situation whereby we are not the one creating the interface, or the interface has already been created. So now we want to evaluate like how easy is this application to use. We can also evaluate the existing interfaces using user flows by asking ourselves into the next. When you click on your settings tab or settings icon, does what we see there is something that we would have expected to see? Because when we click on something, we are already expecting to see something there. So is it intuitive? Does one screen flow into the next? Does the pattern make sense? So it helps us determine what's working and what's not working. The third one is to present your products to clients or colleagues. Like I've said now, we've gotten an idea of a solution, and at this moment, it's in our head. It might be just words, it might just be sketches. By working in a team, we have the person that hired us to work on certain products or to cater to a certain problem. So using user flows, we can easily present our product to our clients. So you have told me now as your employer that you have a solution to this problem. And I'm asking you, what's the solution? How can we implement this solution basically? How will this solution be done? Or how will users use this solution you're generating? So now using user flows, we can easily communicate this solution we have ideated. We need to communicate this to our stakeholders, to our team, to our employers, providing a general view of how the interface you have created is intended to work. So it's different saying, I want to make this simple and intuitive, and then giving me a map, a flow of how users can use a product. And from the flow, from the map I'm looking at, I'm seeing that, okay, this is really intuitive. This is simple. This is efficient. So what are the types of user flows, or how which of the user flow charts should we be using? So there are basically three types of user flow charts rather. We have the task flow. So task flow is simply following. Remember, user flow chart is about a path, a route, a direction. It's a flow from entry to action to confirmation. So a task flow focuses on one task. It generally shows only one path and doesn't include multiple branches or pathways. Can take an example from when we were talking about user stories. So for each persona that was created, we created three user stories for them. And these three user stories were pointing at three different features. So now a task flow would pick one of these features and create a walkthrough, a user flow of just that specific task. Now, changing your profile picture is a task. Making a purchase is a task. Probably changing your background photo, your background picture, your font size is a task. This is one task. But all these tasks could be in one platform. So a task flow would focus on just one specific task. We'll focus on outlining the steps, focusing on how users travel while performing a specific task, just one task. So when using task flows, it's assumed that all users will share a common starting point and have no variability in the way the task is carried out. So it's just simply entry, that's your entry point. How do they enter your application or your product? Then the action, what was done? Then the success, was it a success or not? So that's for task flows. You can also say that a user flow is made up of multiple task flows. This is because we're also going to get into the user flow because it's also a subset of user flow chart. User flow now, it's user flow evaluates multiple different ways a singular action can be done or a singular task can be done. Okay, we're going to get there. Then the next type of user flow chart is the wire flows. So wire flows are a combination of wireframes and flowcharts. Wireframes are simply skeletons or sketches of your design, like in a very, very, very simple format. So they convey the layout and design on each individual page. And wireflows add page context to UX flows, since what users see on each screen greatly impacts their experience through the app or website. So for example, if we go back and we see the tax flow was just simply entry. It was, we are using words and boxes, then a line, words and boxes, then a line, words and boxes. So we are not visualizing the screen, not visualizing how the action would look like. We're not visualizing how what the entry points would be. We're just using words to show the flow in tax flows. But in wire flows, you integrate both wireframes and flowcharts to create a flow. So depending on the stage of your design process, the wire flows could be high fidelity or low fidelity. So wire flows are especially great at creating mobile screens because they are smaller and easier to visualize. Remember now, when you're creating user flows, you are still trying to make a mental image of your design process, of your how your actual design is supposed to look like. So nothing is definite. You're still in the testing phase, you're still ideating, you're still coming up with solutions from different. Okay. All right. Okay, so I stopped at wire flows, comparing wire flows to tax flows. So, like I said, at this stage of your design process, you do not want to dwell too much in the details. You're trying to ideate, you're trying to come up with a solution or to solidify our solutions. So, that's why we usually prefer wire flows for creating mobile screens because the screen is smaller, it's easier to visualize compared to desktop screens. Because if we're creating wire flows of a desktop application, we would waste too much time pondering on the details than the whole general solution. So the task flow is usually preferred. Then the third type of user flow chart is the user flow. This is the one we know or the one we are familiar with. So user flow focuses on the way your target audience will interact with the product. User flow is basically a task flow of multiple tasks. So while a task flow would focus on just one task, user flow would focus on all the tasks that your application will be catering to. They will show you all the ways that a particular task can be performed because not all users might perform tasks the same way. They may travel in different paths. So sometimes if it's an e-commerce platform and you're looking to buy a shoe, some people can just be scrolling on their homepage and see a shoe and they click on it. Then from there they're already in the product details page. They'll see the pictures of the shoe, the color, the sizes, the amount, the description. They are seeing the details of the product. How did they get there? They got there from the homepage. This is just one user. But another user might have had to click on the search bar. When they click on search, they type brown shoe and different option comes up. So now they're having different entry points, but they're performing the same task. So a user flow looks at all the ways your audience can interact with your product. When using this type of flow chart, you may have different scenarios that start at different places. However, the main task or accomplishment is usually the same for user flows. So how do we create a user flow? We have understand how to do it. We have understand it. We have understood the reason why we create user flows and the types of user flows. So how do we go ahead to create user flows? The first step, as always, like I've always said, is to understand your user. That was the reason for the very first step in design thinking, empathize, understand your user. Because for whatever solution you are generating now, it should be gotten from your understanding of your user. What are their needs? What problems would they like to be solved? What features are most important to them? What questions do they have about your product? even as simple as understanding how good they are with technology. Like I said, in user personnel, we added this um, technology familiarity, something like that. How familiar are they with using technological products? So you should know how complex your product can be. This code might work fine because most people using it are probably people into tech or the work platform. But if it was a platform catered to older people for teaching, they might have problems. So understanding your users, creating personas, all the steps we did in the empathy and the define has been necessary for you to come to this point of your design process. So that's the first step to understand your user, and we have all done that step. The next step now is to create your user flow outline. Now, this is just an outline. Create an outline of what how your user would use your product. So now you know your solution best. You know what you are envisioning for your users. Now you should start creating the outline of your user flow. So it can be as simple as just writing a text and using arrows. Okay, this is what I want my users to do with my application. They go here, they see this, they click on this, they see this, they click on this, they see this. So now we're not focused about things like the icons or the fonts or the colors or those minor tiny details. We're just focusing on the action. Focus on the action, the results of using your application, the solution that it's providing. So just start by writing down the flow that you have in your mind. So now to create this outline, it's helpful to break down your flowchart into three main stages. The first stage is the entry point. Like I've mentioned before, the entry point, that's the entry point to whatever application you are providing. Hold on, please. Okay, after the entry point, we have the steps to completion. Now, you're entering an application, you have something you'd want to do. So that's the action we're looking at here, the steps to completion. For whatever action you want to take, for whatever task you want to embark on, there would be there's a start and there's an end. So when we are outlining three parts of the user flow at this point, the entry point, the step to completion, and the final step or the final interaction. So the entry point, like I've said before, are means by which a user accesses a product initially. Websites can have many points of entries, while apps often have limited and distinct entry points. Steps to completion. This is the body of the flowchart. This stage usually consists of a login or sign up screens, the onboarding, a home screen, or any screens needed to navigate a task to completion. So you have the entry point, how the user assesses your product. Then the steps to completion should involve what the task the user is embarking on and what screens, what actions they have to interact with to complete that action. Then the final interaction is the final screen the user would see when they accomplish a task. Look, this could be as simple as the confirmation screen to inform your user that your order has been received. So these are the three outlines you should be thinking of when creating a user flow outline. Then the third step now is that we have thought about the user flow. Now we have the user flow outlined. So what we're focused on at this stage is how best to present it. how best to present this user flow that anybody that sees it, if you are sharing it with our team members, if you're sharing it with our stakeholders, they would understand it. So at this step, we're going to define the elements of our user flow. So designers commonly use various shapes or colors to represent a unique set of elements within the interface. We use the rectangle to represent a page or a display screen. So like the picture here, just a page. This is probably the welcome page. This is the details page. This is no items found page. Probably you have searched for an item on the platform and no item has been found. Then use a rectangle to depict that this part of my user flow, I'm talking about a page. You're going to see, if you see a rectangle on the user flow, just know that it's a page, a screen that we're talking about. Then a circle is used for displaying an action. Use a circle when you want to represent a process, task, or operation. So now let's say, searching for an item. It's not a page, but it's an action. So we represent it with a circle. Filling in our details, probably our delivery addresses. It's an action. So we represent it with a circle. So we also have the lines with arrows. This is probably the most important part of the user flows, as line with arrows tie everything together and determine the flow through the chart. Remember, this is a flow. Once you think of flow, you think of a straight line, something that is flowing, that is seamless, that is not detached. So your line with arrows is used to join different parts of your user flows. So depending on the direction of the arrow, it tells you what direction you should be taking. So what they do is to simply give you direction. That's the line with arrows. Then you have the diamond shape. This is what it looks like. The diamond looks like this kite shape. It's also often termed a decision diamond. This shape always asks a question. It's called a decision. Like once you see a diamond, this shape, it means that the user is asking a question. Or it's a question, it's a decision that must be made at this stage of your user flow. So you see questions like existing user, yes or no. Now, this is a decision. Let's say existing user, the answer is yes. Means it tells you to log into your account again because your account has already been created. You're already an existing user. But if the answer was no, now you have to create an account. So it gives you it's a decision. It's at a stage where a decision must be made. Are you going this route or are you going this other route? Correct, yes or no. If it's correct, yes, you can proceed. If it's not correct, you have to probably change something. So we use diamonds to represent this decision phase. That's the third step. So the fourth step is just to refine your outline to make sure everything is perfect. You cross your I's and you dot your I's and you cross your T's. So make sure your labels are meaningful. Choose your colors wisely. Make sure it's best to keep your colors consistent. If you're using the blue color for rectangles, use blue color all through for all rectangles. If you're using yellow for the circles or for your decisions, be consistent with it. So that at a glance, someone can easily envision the user flow or the flow of your application. So now let's go ahead to create a user flow to see how it's done on FigJam. All right, before we get here, let's let's see. Are there any questions before we start this? Just raise up your hand if you have any question, or you can drop it in the chat box. If there's any question concerning the class, please. Make sure it's a question concerning current class. All right. Look at me. You can unmute your mic.
Go back to the diamond parts. My network kicked me out and I didn't get it very well.
Okay, the diamond is simply called a decision diamond. It's used to represent that a decision is going to be made at this stage of the user flow. So at any point where the user is is flowing through your application or using your application, they have to make a decision to go with this or go with that. We represent it with a diamond. It's called the decision diamond. So as we get into it proper, we would see how it's all used. Is that clear?
You.
All right. Is there any other question? Or should we go ahead? Okay, this page 4, that is the refine your outline. Okay, it's just simply refining, making sure everything as out is perfect or is the way you want it to be. So now you have understood your user, you have created your outline. Outline is your rough sketch of your user flow. So now you have identified the elements. You have identified the elements. Okay. So you have identified the elements. You have identified that using a rectangle is for pages, using a circle is for actions, using a kite is for decision. Now it's left for you to go back to your outline and refine it. Choose your colors wisely, be consistent with the visual structure, and work to make your outline perfect or your user flow perfect at this point. That's just what step 4 is all about. Okay, Joy, if I'm at this step to create a user flow. So the steps to create a user flow. All right, now, so let's see. Let me share my screen. So if you have access to this FigJam file, you can join us here. Still the same file we're going to use. It's almost endless, so and let me try and share it again. Okay. Okay. So now let's see. So this is an example that was given here. So now one thing you should understand is that when working with this shape, so this is the user flow. The user flow. You can see we are not looking at pictures or interfaces at this point. We are simply using words and shapes to depict the flow of the user through our application or through whatever solution we have ideated. Okay? So the diamond now is usually constant. Wherever you see a diamond, it means the user has to take a decision at that point. But the rectangle and the circle, sometimes the use can be changed. Sometimes they can use the the rectangle, sorry. They can use the rectangle for action instead of pages. So it just depends on you just make sure that whenever you're done with your user flow, drop a key. There should be a key. It should be something like this. Letting your user know that this rectangle, when you see a rectangle, it depicts action. When you see a diamond, it depicts decision at whatever point you are in the website. So if you look at this e-commerce website here, so now this is the entry point. Enter website. This is the entry point. The website this is an e-commerce website. So you have entered the website. So the first entry point is to enter the website now. Then the final Emmanuel, you ask your question later. Hold on. Then then you have the exit point to exit the website. So you have, like I've said, this is the entry point, the final interaction, and all this here are the steps to completion. So now, let's see. This is an e-commerce website. What would you come to an e-commerce website to do? You probably want to buy something. An e-commerce is basically an e-market. So now, from this flow, the first thing, enter website. Then the next thing is to go to the product list page. Product list page. So this is the page where you're going to list your product. So now we're envisioning the journey of the user. Remember, we did this when we were talking about user journey maps, but they are different in terms of how the sketching is done. This is a user flow chart. Yes, this is the user flow chart. This is how it looks like. Okay. So now this is the product. You go to the product list page, then look at it. This is the line with the arrow. So it's telling you the direction. How are we moving through this flow? So you enter the website, you go to the product list page, then review. You can decide to review recommended items. You can decide to search for items. You can decide to use the menu button and navigate to a particular category you're looking for. So at the product list page, these are the three things you can decide to do. So remember, it's a user flow. So while a task flow would show you only one part, a user flow would show you different paths to achieving a specific task. So when you have searched for an item, when you have reviewed a recommended item, or when you have used the menu button to navigate to the category, you finally found an item that you want to purchase. Then we depict it with this. So if you look at this now, this identify item for purchase is connected to this, and connected to this because there are different routes or there are different actions, different stages at which we can identify an item for purchase. And please, I don't know, you are being distracted on the chat section. So you just focus on the class and don't worry too much about joining the jam file, please. Okay. So when you have identified the item for purchase, you can now decide to add it to the shopping cart. So this is an action. I'm just explaining this user flow that it's here. So at this point in time now, when you're in the shopping cart, so there's a decision to be made. There's a decision to be made here. Are we adding more items to the shopping cart? Or am I checking out? Am I done shopping? So just envision that process where you are in your cart. in probably Jumia or whatever website you use to shop. So a decision has to be made at this point. Are you ready to pay and check out, or do you want to add more items? So that's why a decision diamond was used here. So you ask yourself more items. Then when you click, then you see there's an arrow here that says yes, that I want to add more items. So this arrow now led us back to the product list page because now I want to add more items. So I'm going back to the product list page to see what other items I can add. So what if the user decides, okay, I'm done shopping, I want to check out. So this arrow would be named no, should be no. You can decide to, hope you can see it. No. So no. So I don't want to add more items. My answer is no. Then I go to the checkout process. So then the next thing is to log in and sign up. So this is for an e-commerce platform where you do not have to log in to use the application. So there's some there's some platforms where it's at the point of buying an item, they would prompt you to log in and sign up on their page. While there are some that you have to log in and sign up at the beginning of the process. So depending on how you want your platform to be, or has how your solution looks like, this login and sign up page could be up here. So after the entire website, the next thing is to log in and sign up. After logging and sign up, you go to the product list page. Like the person that is saying in the chat box that don't you have to log into or sign up to the Figma or FigJam platform before you use it? Yes. So now I'm using his insights. When you're creating your flow for Figma or FigJam, you have the idea that as soon as you enter or you download your Figma document, you have to log in and sign up first. So that's just an example of another flow. So after you log in and sign up, you review your order confirmation. That means you review your order to confirm it. Is everything correct? Probably put in your delivery details and all that. Then the next thing when you are done, you exit the website. So someone can go ahead with this task flow to talk about the track your delivery. But that would be another user flow. So now this is the user flow for ordering on an e-commerce website. This is the user flow for ordering on this e-commerce website. But if let's say you want to track your order on this e-commerce website, we're going to create another user flow for it. Sometimes if you want to join all of them together, you create a multiple user showing different tasks. So at this point, if we were to I'm really sorry. My network is really bad. Rain is falling here, so the network is bad. Okay, hold on, please. Host. Okay, Namaka, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so I think the network kicked me out and made you the host. So I'll need you to record this call. Do you know how to record?
Yes, yes,
It's
Minister.
already recording, Rufina. So
It's already recording. Okay. I
yeah, it's
don't
still
think
recording.
it's
It is.
okay.
Mm.
Okay.
She just needs to make you host.
All right. I checked. Are you the co-host, Ijama?
No, no, no. I was, but
All
I was
right.
kicked out
So
at some point. So she's
okay. Okay. So let's work on creating.
Also, halb gleich Kaşar.
Let's say we want to. Can everybody hear me? Sorry. Um, so first of all, we're going to create a session, a section. And so we create a section to create our own user flow now. In this is an e-commerce website, and that's the case study we're using. User flow was created. The first thing have already we familiarized ourselves with all this the toolbar here. This is where all the shapes are. So you can get a rectangle, a circle, or the triangle, or the connector. Ahmed, please mute your mic. Now I went to the toolbar and I'm starting with a rectangle. So this is a rounded rectangle. This is a circle. This is a diamond, triangle, triangle. This is a rounded rectangle. So I'm going with this, a rounded rectangle. So I draw the shape. Okay. So when you click on it, you can change the color. You can make it feel. You can add a border. So depending on what you want, you can also make it transparent. is quite big, so we're going to scale down. Okay, I hope everybody is with me. Sorry, my network is. So depending on what shape you want to use, you can use the rounded rectangle, you can use the square to create your rectangle. So now this is the home page. Now this is for an e-commerce website. We're trying to envision user flow of a user through an e-commerce website. Now the first page that we have identified here is the home page. You go to an application, the first thing you see is the home page now. So that's where we're starting from in this user flow. So now when you're using this on FigJam, you're going to see like there'll be arrows pointing you to different direction, depending on the direction you want to take. So if I click on this arrow, it duplicates my previous shape and gives me another shape to work with. If I decide, okay, I do not want to use a rectangle anymore, I can click on this and change it to a circle, perhaps. I can also decide to change the color to green. Then the arrow, if I want a pointed arrow, I'm going to click on the arrow. I'll click on this and change it to a line arrow. So now this is the connector. This is your rectangular shape showing circular shape showing a an action. You can also bring your diamond, sit somewhere here. So these are the different shapes that you can get. So from our home page, you are in your home page, and the next thing is you want to browse for a product. You want to search for a product. Then let's say you can also, if you don't want to click on this to give you a shape, you can draw it out yourself. This is my line connector. You can draw it to anywhere you want. I want a circle instead now. So I'm going to represent my circle with, let's say, purple instead. And change this line color to purple, depending on how I want it. Okay, from the home page, I decide to search a product, which is an action. If your line is skewed or is not where you want it to be, you can also click on the line and change its position. Just click on this. And I want it to be here instead. So there's a direct arrow leading me from the home page to search a product. So from searching a product, it led me to the product details page. So this is a product detail. That means it's a page. So we're going to use yellow and we are going to use a rectangle. This is the product listing page. Okay. Now in the product list, let's bring this to the center so we have more space to do what we want to do. So from the product listing page, we can decide to select the size or the quantity, or we can decide to add to cart. You can also duplicate your yes, just duplicate it by clicking on Alt, click on your shape, click on Alt, then drag it out. You duplicate the shape. So I want to select size and quantity. So selecting size and quantity is not a page, but it's an action that we can use to you can decide to depict this with the purple and oh wow. Then you join it. Then after I selected the size and quantity, next thing add to cart, which is also an action. Then probably after adding to cart, you see your cart page. What should be here? Yellow and square cart page. So you're seeing how we are creating the flow. Okay, let me see what Wisdom is doing. You just feel free to play with the tools, get familiar with how shapes and how to navigate the platform. Okay, so we have the cart page. So now once we see this from afar, we already know the rectangle is shapes, the rectangle is pages, while the circles are actions. So at the cart page, we can decide, okay, we want to, let's see, add or remove items. Now this is a decision, so we're going to depict this with pink and a rectangle. So let me make this bigger. You can enlarge it. Okay. Or so now when we click on add, let's move finish to add item. Add item. Is our answer yes? If our answer is yes, let's say it's now going to direct us Save this. So if you're going to add item, it's going to take us back to the product listing page. If you decide to add an item, I'm going to name this. Yes. Okay. Add items, yes. If our answer is no, proceed to checkout. We are going to name this no. So that's just the different shapes and the different ways you can create your flow. Okay. So are there any questions or any confusion or any issues with navigating the platform? So now you have your flow out. Now you know what is being done in your product. You know that you're going to use rectangle to show a page. You're going to use circles to show an action that is being done. You're going to use the diamond to know if a decision is being made. So now, depending on your design, on whatever project you're working on, you create a user flow for tasks on that platform, tasks that are done in that platform. So that's just it. It's just it. So Figure is just basically going to be working with shapes, different connectors. You're going to use the connectors to connect different. Can connect this to this. You can also decide if you want to delete it, you can just click on it and click on delete. You might decide to use a dashed line. Okay. Mhm. So there are just a lot of options and a lot of settings and different ways you can decide to represent your user flow. The main point or the rule that you should follow is to just ensure that you have your key. So your key is basically how your user should understand what you're talking about. So the key for this is action, this is decision. So with different colors, different shapes. But to understand this, I have the key. So if I'm lost or I don't understand what's going on here, I look at the key and I'll be able to understand, okay, this is the user flow. All these are representing actions and this is representing decision. So that's basically how you create your user flows. So are there any questions or clarifications? Raise up your hand if you have questions, please. Okay, Emmanuel, is your question about the class?
Yeah. It's about the class.
All right, go ahead.
You mentioned that anytime you see a diamond shape, it means decision, and that of a rectangular shape means for action. So my own question is, you have three colors here, right? What if you
Okay.
have more than
Ẹ ṣe ọba àgbo ó ti di question time so àwọn nǹkan tí mi ò understand kí n catch up.
what if you have more than like you like this shape I'm seeing here that looks like circle, this oval shape.
Okay.
So
Okay.
to me, it's supposed to represent action, right?
Okay.
So what if we have more shapes, different colors? Can we have
Okay.
keys for
That's what.
color? Can we have keys for colors too?
No, there's no key for. Yes. What am I? Sorry. I'm trying to tell you that depending on the design, you're the designer, so you make some decisions by yourself. So what you can do as a rule to make sure it's as consistent as possible, and anybody that comes into your design file is able to understand it, is to give your key, to create your key here. So this person used decision, the diamond, and made it purple. My decision was not purple. My decision was pink. Yeah. My page, I used my rectangle as pages and my circle as action. The one that was created here, the rectangle was used as action and there was no circle. Circle was just used for the entry and the exit point. Okay. So I'm saying that the shape, the diamond shape is the most consistent, is the one that has been agreed universally that is for decision. So wherever you see a user flow, because you would often have to look at other people's user flows. Wherever you see a diamond, it's often known to be a decision, like a decision has to be made there. But usually just use the key the person is going to create. So just know that for whatever user flow you're creating, create a key alongside it so that people can understand what the reason why you decided to use this or use that rather. Does that make sense? Is he with me?
Yeah, I understand. Thank you so much.
You understand? All right, okay. So just whatever you want to use. If you want to, like I said, the key I gave you all, I said circle for action, rectangle for shape, for page. So this is the most common, key that most people would use. It's the most common shape that people would use for those particular actions or those particular um interactions on an application. Is the most common one. But sometimes you might see some things that are different. So how you can familiarize yourself with those different ones is to look at the person's key to confirm that what the person is using is the one you know.
All right. Thank you.
Right. You're welcome. Okay, Blessing said, how am I getting the arrows? Arrows. It's just okay, see. Just look at me. I'm going to get a shape. This is my shape. I'm going to draw it. Okay. Now I already so one thing you should know about this the fig jam is that whatever setting you made, your previous setting would reflect in um whatever feature you pick up next. So this the homepage I did last, I made it transparent and I gave it a dashed outline. So the next shape I'm going to create would be colorless and have a dashed outline. So if I change this, I'm going to now change this and give it like it's a little color yellow. Then I can make the outline. This is my outline. I'm going to make the outline solid. So whatever new one I bring out now would have that same settings. Okay. So if you want to get the connector or the arrows, you just you can decide, once you click on a shape and you zoom in well enough, you're going to see this. You're going to see an arrow here. You're going to just click. I'm not clicking on anything. I'm just hovering on it. Once I click on this, I get an arrow. So this arrow is going to follow this shape wherever it goes. If I decide to move anywhere, shape is following it. and delete. So if I don't want to click on this arrow like this, I can just decide to draw out the arrow. I can draw just going to click on this, click and drag. Double click and drag. Just I want to connect this arrow to this shape here to search product. I'm just going to click and drag. Search products here. So that's how I got the line and the connector. So you can now click on the line and change whatever settings you want. If I want to change the endpoint, I want to change the other endpoint because they have the left endpoint and the right endpoint. So there are two different endpoints. I want to change the color, I think whatever color you want. So that's how you get your connectors. Yeah. Okay. Jerriton. Hope I didn't spell your name. I didn't pronounce your name correctly.
Yes,
Can
you
I
did.
meet your mic? Okay. Please correct me.
Yeah, it's generating ego.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay. Let's hear from you.
Thank you for me, first of all. I may not say anything so related to the exact thing you're talking about now. I
Okay.
was very unwell for some time, but thank God for life. Then the network here is a little bit hazy. It's raining seriously. So your network has been coming and going. I know you are also experiencing the same thing. So I wanted to ask quickly,
Yeah.
will you get access to the slides after this class?
Yes, you will. You will get access to the slides. The recorded class would be on YouTube. It's going to be available on
Thank you.
YouTube on our YouTube channel. All right. You're welcome. All right. Esther, please let me hear from you. Chioma Esther.
Okay, sorry, I wanted to ask, for the fig jam tax, because you showed us two different this e-commerce website stuff. The example you were giving, you showed us two. One has the login, and the other is this one you are showing us. So for the fig jam tax, do we do this one you just did, or the first one that has just login and other stuff?
I'm confused. I don't understand. Which one has just login and other stuff?
The e-commerce web, the first example you gave, it just has login and
Is it this one?
okay. Yes. I'm saying for the tax, do we do it like this, or this current one you just showed us?
What's the difference between both of them?
This one is more detailed than the first one.
Okay, so it's generally it depends on you as a designer, and depends on your solution.
Okay.
Okay, it depends on you and the solution that you are trying to depict. If you want it, you can create it as detailed as possible. You can also create it like just make sure that the flow is something that I understand. It's something that you're going to present to your stakeholders or your team members. So you should be able to communicate the user flow. Yeah. So depend if you want it to be as you would think that you're still going to get into those details eventually. But
Okay.
to make sure that that's your user flow leads me through the interaction or the route your user is taking to perform that task on your application.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
different, all right, all right. So different users, different designers, different takes. So some people might go out, we can go as little as selecting size and quantity, you still go deeper into this. So just make sure that it provides the bare minimum and answers the bare questions, that's the standard questions. That's just your focus. Sorry. I know it's okay. Uti. Uti, let me hear from you. Can I mute your mic?
Okay, good evening, ma.
Good evening.
All right, from how to create a user flow. The third second step here, you said
Okay.
if we are to create a user flow, we must have an entry point, we must have steps to completion, and then the final stage
Yes.
to.
Yes.
So looking at this chart flow, can I say that
Okay.
the home page is the entry point, and
Yes.
from search to cart page is the
No,
um
the steps to completion. So it
yeah.
depends. Yeah. So it depends on what your task is. Yeah. Depends on what
Okay.
task the user is performing. So for this chart we created here, it's actually not complete because we are not done. Like you said, the final interaction is missing. We have the entry points, we have the steps to completion. Yeah, for the task we're trying to create here is to buy something or to purchase something on an e-commerce platform. So our final interaction should be the product confirmation or the prompt to order to track your order, right? That will be the final interaction.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So that means this chart is not complete. So that's what the outline gives you. That is what knowing the standard gives you. So now looking
Okay.
at that, now we know that this chart is not complete, and we are going to proceed and make sure that our very final, the last thing we're going to work on in this chart is the final interaction. I don't know if that makes sense. So this is incomplete. You're correct.
Oh, all right. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. So like I said, whatever user flow you are going to whatever user flow you're going to create should start have an end, have a beginning and the end. Um, sorry, please, who is that? Okay. All right. Yeah. So sorry, like I was trying to say, your user flow should have a beginning and an end. So you'd see, realize that this user flow does not have an end, and that was what he pointed out. So to just work on having all that. Okay. So Divine said, can I always share the link for the week after Thursday class so we can have. All right, I will do that. Like I'll do that. I'll do that right now. Fine. Thank you for that insights. Okay, so is there any other questions? Abuchi asked, please a recap on how to get the colors. So it's easy. Just in your free time, work. Just test the platform. Go through different areas. So just simply you click on what you want to change. You can click on the shape. You're going to see a you're going to see a mini toolbar here where you have the color, the shape, the font. You want it large, you want it extra small, you want to input the font yourself. You also have bold, you have strike through, just the things you are familiar with. If you have used any word processing software, you're going to be familiar with these things. So to change the color, you can simply click on color, change green, change it to pink, whatever color you want to use. Then for the lines too, you click on the line, you see the colors, you see this line style. Do you want it thicker? Do you want it slimmer? Or whatever? Thick, yeah. And rather, do you want it dash like this? So just familiarize yourself with the platform and get used to it. Okay, so Emmanuel, you raised up his hands, but his hands are down now. Do you still have a question?
Yeah, you just explained it. I was about to ask about the line, but I saw two on page. And you did one with the broken line, so I don't know whether it means something.
We're going to get there. There are different, like apart from user flows, there are also other methods or other maps we create on FigJam. So when we get into others, you see what the dash line is used for. But just test it out yourself and just see everything that the application has to offer you. So yeah. So how do we access the link to the Figma? So it's you're the one to create your own file, your own document. I went through this last session. I don't know if you're available. You're going to go to your home screen. Network is bad, but let me see if it works. So this is your home screen now. Then you click on create. create, you see the design, you see FigJam, you see slides. So you click on FigJam. So create means create a new file. And what file do you want to create? I want to create a FigJam file. Click on FigJam. Then it creates a file for you. Then you can name it, give it whatever name you want. Then when you want to share it for your submission in the LMS, you click on share. And when you're sharing, I made this clear in our last session. Ensure that the access, like these issues I always have with Google Documents, let's not repeat it here. So who can access? You click on anyone can view. What I need to do with your FigJam file is to view and comment. I don't need to edit it or be able to change colors or anything. I'm just grading you, so I should be able to view and comment. So you click on this view and comment, then you save it. Once you save this setting, you share the link. You copy the link here, link copy, then you paste it on your LMS submission. All right, so that's all for today's session. I don't think there are any other questions. So good luck with your task. I'll drop the slides link in the Discord channel this evening. Thank you, everybody, and good night. Have a good night.
Hello, Amaka, please stop the recording. Hello?